Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Chaotic Tavern. I'm your bartender, Dan, and I've got a story to share with you. Just a quick FYI, sorry if my voice sounds a little funny on the mic. I just moved into a new house and my studio has no padding in it, so my voice is probably bouncing off the walls right now. Anyway, y'all play any tabletop games lately? I haven't. That involves having free time. And friends who want to be near you. I'm fine. Anyway, if you have played some tabletop games lately, then there's a real good chance you probably played them at a gaming shop. Gaming shops are sort of a hub for all nerdy activities and interests. They're like a beacon, and they're the foundation for a lot of gaming communities that meet up in real life. Hell, I've met a few good friends at game shops, and I've made some of my best D&D memories at them. However, if you've been in this hobby long enough, you've probably found a few less than stellar shops. In fact, a few of the places I've been to could be made into an entire horror story all by themselves. Believe me, with places like these, your mileage can and will vary. A lot. And today's story revolves around just that. Today's tale stars a gamer trying to get his gaming fix at a shop that's run like it's located in Guantanamo. We have a cast of two horrific store owners who are filled with spite and insecurity, a collection of customers who fear the friendly shop they're supposed to be having fun in, and an OP who learns the hard way what not to look for in a game shop. Today's story is titled The Friendly Local Game Store That Held Me Hostage and Gave Me Stockholm Syndrome. Abusive Store Owners Create Toxic Community by Punk Headphones. Hi all, I have a crazy story about my first D&D experiences. It's a bit of a journey and goes through some weird stuff. Anyway, hope you enjoy. Part 1. Lost and Desperate. So back in 2013, a friend of mine, let's call him Barry for the sake of the story, and me splurged and managed to get tickets to PAX East. That's where we were able to playtest D&D 5th edition. It was my first time playing any TTRPG, and it was something I got instantly hooked into. When I came home, I started looking for groups to play in, but unfortunately, I had a really hard time finding any TTRPG groups around my area, and found even less groups that weren't filled. It was very likely that I was looking into all the wrong places, as I didn't know any good communities, networks, or websites I could use. I was still new to the scene, and had just started to get into board games and RPGs. To make matters worse, Barry got really busy with a new baby at home and was unable to play consistently. I was left alone to find a D&D group all by myself. After a while of searching and getting increasingly more depressed, desperate, and discouraged, I reached out to Barry again. He was surprised I wasn't able to find a group near a major city and suggested I try out a store by him. He liked the store a lot and had a few of their hoodies that he wore frequently. He didn't suggest the store before because it was located about an hour drive away from me without traffic. He said he wasn't sure if they had D&D groups, but figured they might be able to give me a lead. Willing to try any lead I could, I called the store, we'll call it Dave's Place, and asked about their D&D sessions. The owner, we'll call him Dave, was super friendly over the phone. He said that they have an active group every other Saturday. They were looking for one more, and the fee to play was $20 for a first-time session. I was super happy when I heard this, and was there about a half hour early the very next Saturday. When I got there, I was entranced by what I can only describe as the most beautiful store I had ever seen. Even now, years later, after visiting dozens and dozens of gaming stores, it is still hands down the most beautiful store I think I have ever seen. It had painted wall decor, swords of all types and sizes, all from every movie and TV show you can think of. Shields, bows, tapestries, posters, it was amazingly thematic. They had a front room that looked like a real castle throne room / dungeon, with a beautiful wood table and chairs. They had tons of board games, miniatures, books, storage, everything. It very much seemed like the perfect cornucopia for any sci-fi or D&D nerd. It was just the best. Dave was there, welcomed me. I paid the fee and was then introduced to the other players and the DM. After some quick introductions and rules/content discussions, we were given some pre-made starter characters. They wanted to do a trial run before we all made characters. We played for a few hours. It was a total blast. The people were fun, patient, helpful, and very positive. It was everything I was looking for and hoped for a time. Insert foreboding music. Some context. At this point in my life, I was pretty broke. I was going to college and worked part-time, only making around $10 an hour. Right before I started going to the store, I was in what was called clinical trials for educational training. This is a program I am required to take to become a teacher. This meant I had to quit my job and start observing a teacher at another school for 2 months while also taking other college courses. Shortly after I finished that semester, I entered student teaching. If you're not familiar with the program, it means I, again, have to quit working a 9-to-5 job, as I now have to work full-time as a teacher in training without pay for about 4 months. This meant that I went without a real source of stable income for more than 6 months. I had saved well, but really had to budget things out. I had a crappy car that guzzled gas, and gas at this time was pretty expensive. The driving distance was an hour each way, which was almost a half a tank each round trip. On top of that, the store charged me $10 an hour to play every time. These trips were starting to cost me anywhere between $50 to $80 each time I went. I know that many people will laugh and balk at this cost, but as a broke college student, this really added up. But I was having fun, and the group I got to play with was great. I was building relationships, discovering myself, and was slowly coming out of my shell. So I kept going every week. Almost religiously. Part 2. Roll for Obedience. It happened somewhat slowly, but the veneer of Dave's place started to wane. I started to notice some weird and really disheartening things about Dave's place and its owners. The owner, Dave, and his wife, we'll call her Karen, were very aggressive to customers in some very strange and aggressive ways. I started to notice that they had really bad attitudes in general. They could be happy and chipper sometimes, but this was a mask they used to lure people in. Their attitudes could change almost instantaneously, as they would yell at tons of their patrons for small infractions and weird/confusing reasons. They would often do this in front of new customers. This would ultimately end in potential customers putting their purchases back on the racks, arguing back, walking out, or vowing never to return. Dave and Karen would yell, bully, and argue with people about almost everything. For instance, if you brought in any outside food or drink, they would scream at you, force you to throw it out, and belittle you for the rest of the night. All outside food and drink was banned. It didn't matter if you were a child or an adult. If you simply made the unconscious mistake, they would scream as if you had brought in a foaming rabid raccoon through the door. They wanted to make sure that absolutely everything that entered Dave's place had been 100% previously purchased at that store. It became very uncomfortable. Sometimes it would be hard to concentrate and play our games as they would shake the walls screaming at people. It started to become a weird parallel to the Soup Nazi episode from Seinfeld. One wrong move and you were excommunicated. This made the environment constantly tense for us players, as we were all secretly afraid of making the two of them angry and getting banned ourselves. There were many points where Dave would come up to us and yell at one of us for some reason, or go on a long rant about how some customer did something wrong. This would interrupt our game time for up to 20 minutes at some points. Don't forget, we're paying an hourly rate to be here. Some of us started to get a bit of PTSD as we would jump or flinch sometimes when Dave came storming through the store. To combat this, some customers tried to be overly friendly. They would bring gifts to Dave and Karen or compliment them to stay in their good graces. Others would eventually succumb to their sense of justice, argue back at the owners, or defend other patrons who had made minor mistakes. Ultimately, this would lead to both owners berating them, banning them, etc. Many store patrons backed down because they didn't want to leave the only community in town. For the most part, I did my best to pretend to be invisible 99% of the time, so I mostly ignored the drama and I tried to stay in good standing, whatever that means. During one session, one of the players in my group got a bit too animated and started describing a kill in too much detail. Dave charged up to our table and yelled at the player because he thought they were being too graphic for his taste that day. He added the fact that this is a family store. After this, we started to really dial back any roleplay we did, as we didn't want to be too extroverted for fear of repercussions. Like I mentioned before, anytime you played here, it was not free. They charged by the hour for everything. Monetized everything. Miniatures, books, everything that was used had to be purchased at the store. I don't know how they were able to keep track of it all. It must have been exhausting. They were constantly in fear that people were taking advantage of them. If you wanted to open some magic cards you just bought, you better pay for a seat, otherwise you can do that elsewhere. One of the players in the group brought in a metal water bottle and got yelled at. They said that he had to purchase their bottled water instead, only to follow up with, "And don't let us catch you drinking from the bathroom faucet." Soon after, they started to refuse to sell bottled water because nobody ever bought it. Everyone buys the soft drinks and energy drinks. There were only super salty snacks and beef jerky, again, because nobody bought the other stuff. There was a girl in the D&D group who had celiac and stomach issues, and when she asked them politely for any other options, they would just yell at her to go eat in her car. That's what we did most of the time. We would have to take whole group breaks to go eat or drink something, all while being clocked the whole time. Did I mention they kept a running timer? They would hover over you with a clock, and 1 second after it went off, there was no finishing what you were saying or doing. It was, "Hey, your session is done. Do not write one more thing down. If you do, I will be charging you all for another hour." They yelled at kids who took too long buying magic cards and would get into arguments with parents about their child's behavior and tell them to manage your kids. One time, a family came in to play a board game. They purchased table time to play at a table, $10 each person for an hour. And when they sat down, Dave yelled at them for bringing in a game that they didn't purchase at Dave's place. When the father complained that it was a German game that wasn't even sold in the US, Dave screamed at him that he didn't care, and that he should have bought the game there. They all got up and left. I just remember watching the kids walk out. They looked traumatized. Dave, my man, can we talk real quick? You and me, can we have a quick chat? I know you're a busy man and you've got your hands full trying to figure out how to charge people for taking bathroom breaks, but I need a moment of your time. Listen, I'm a greedy little Irishman who loves gold more than any dragon ever could, but holy hell, you have hit a level of greed and insecurity I have never seen. Someone who works at Nintendo is reading this post and their pants just got a whole lot tighter. What do you mean they need to buy everything they use in the store? Jesus Christ, I'm astonished that didn't include the clothes OP was wearing. Hi, welcome to Dave's Dungeon. Strip and make your way to the clothing aisle or I'll berate you in front of your friends for 20 minutes. So, I have a love-hate relationship with game shops. A lot of players will meet up and play at what is called an FLGS, a friendly local game shop. The problem is, a lot of these shops aren't quite so friendly. It turns out that loving nerdy hobbies and having a passion for them doesn't make you a good businessman, or a good people person, or a good person in general, really. I've been in several game shops, and I can honestly say I've only ever wanted to give 3 of them my repeat business. Store owners can be some of the rudest, most unpleasant people in this space, and it really shouldn't come as a shock to most people. The biggest meme about RPG players is their antisocial, angry neckbeards that avoid the sun. Why would putting one of them behind a counter with a register suddenly make them more enjoyable to be around? Now, obviously, I'm generalizing a little bit. There are plenty of stores that are awesome and run by equally awesome people, and you should really support those stores in any way that you can. But Dave here needs to find the nearest mineshaft and crawl into it like the little goblin he is. All I'm seeing here is some greedy, spiteful jerk who thinks his shop is God's gift to humanity. And OP here is like an abused drug addict who keeps crawling back to his dealer. Like, maybe this time will be different and Dave won't verbally assault him in front of the entire store for eating a Kit Kat that he brought with him. Jesus Christ, man. For months, I ignored all of these issues, trying my hardest to be somewhere between invisible and in good standing. I was so desperate to play D&D. It was my only social outlet, and the very few things I looked forward to each and every week. It was my sweet dopamine fix that I had become addicted to, and ignored all the toxicity in hopes to satiate my bi-weekly fix. I felt so alone without it, and often thought of it as the only good thing you have in your life right now. It's pathetic when I look back on it, but back then I was in an emotionally rocky place, and I was trying my hardest not to lose this group. Part 3. The hostage situation. After months and months, I had finally finished student teaching. Summer hit and I started making money again, working a warehouse job until school started again. The week I got my first paycheck was the same week as my birthday. I got really excited because I had been saving for months to buy some D&D dice and supplies. My brother even bought me a really nice set of fancy D&D dice. I was pumped. Fast forward to Saturday. That day, I was running late to the game night. I had called ahead to let the store know and relay the message to the D&D group. When I got there, both owners gave me a weird look and seemed somewhat short with me. I assumed it was because I was late and quickly paid the fee for the night and walked to the group. I could feel their eyes on me the entire time, as if boring holes into my back. When I got to the table, one player was already deep within some side quest RP moment that mine wasn't anywhere near. I didn't want to interrupt, so I quietly got out my stuff and set it to the side. I started to go around the store and shop for the first real time in a while. I was excited. I had money finally, and was able to get some of those cool things I had been eyeing for months. I had picked up a few things, was looking around, when Dave called my name.
Hey, OP, come here a second, we want to talk with you.
Something about the tone in his voice instantly sparked alarm bells, and my heart dropped in my stomach. I could tell something was wrong. Was it because I was late? Were they mad at me? It definitely triggered something weird in me that I hadn't felt before. I started panicking on the inside as I didn't want to get excommunicated like so many before me. I follow Dave and his wife Karen, and they bring me into another room and corner me. I asked them, "Hey, sorry, I know I was late. I hope I wasn't being disrespectful. I tried to call ahead, but traffic." He cuts me off and says,
"Well, you're being disrespectful to us. We try to create a really nice place for everyone, but we can't do that if you aren't buying your stuff here. We saw those dice, and we know sure as hell that you didn't buy them here. You're being a real shitty customer and betraying the store when you do things like that."
I was confused. I responded nervously. The dice were a gift from my brother.
"Well, where the hell did he get them from?"
My voice shaking. I don't know. They were a gift.
"Well, he should have bought them here. We check the receipts. We know when you're lying to us, so stop lying."
The two of them go back and forth berating me, telling me how terrible of a person I am for a good 10 minutes. They complained about how my actions are destroying their business and taking the food out of the mouths of their children. It felt like an eternity. This keeps going until Dave says,
"You've been coming here for a year now."
Something finally clicked in my brain for a moment, and I was able to utter out, "Whoa, wait, I've only been coming here for 8 months. Dave's response,
"Well, we can check the receipts, but you're clearly not buying enough."
I'm now in defense mode. I was just looking around the store now. I am literally holding your product in my hands that I was about to purchase. Dave,
"You're only saying that now because we caught you being unfaithful. We've been so good to you, and it breaks our heart that you would treat us like this."
More yelling followed, more accusations continued as they continued to claim that they did so much for me. I was stabbing them in the back and how manipulative I was being. They ended with the fact that they wouldn't be able to support the store if people like me bought from their competitors. If you want to play here, buy your stuff here. End of sentence. In case you forgot, I am a paying customer. I have paid $40 every time I have been in their store. I am not some proverbial mooch that is leeching off their goodwill. They were completely out of their minds if they thought that. My brain went into full panic mode. I started to try to rationalize their statements and insults and agree with them. Some sort of Stockholm syndrome was taking over as I frantically calculated how much good standing would cost me. Could I afford it? Would I need to also buy something every hour in addition to paying hourly? Where does it stop? I'm suddenly reminded of those self-checkout machines that ask you to tip them, or like when landlords ask for tips on your rent. It's completely obscene and a never-ending grift. After the encounter, when I got back to the table, I was physically shaking. I didn't know how to respond, how to act, how to breathe. The others in the group could hear the yelling, and everyone got super quiet when I got back. I tried to talk to them about it in the quietest of tones, but Dave kept walking back and forth, monitoring the situation at our table, searching for any dissent. He would give me looks like he was daring me to say something. I looked around at the table and started to notice that everyone else at the table was doing the same. They also kept their heads down and tried not to make eye contact with Dave. I looked around at the group. All of us looked so beaten down and cowed. We didn't look like we were having fun at all, just a group of sad people going through the motions. Nobody had enough courage to say anything about Dave or how we felt. We tried to move on and play, but the encounter was too much for me. I couldn't focus, I couldn't think, or be engaged in the game whatsoever. I jumped at every noise, fearing that Dave was going to come back at any second, scream at me again, grab me by the shirt, and haul me out to the street. I was finally able to express a tiny bit of what happened to the other players. They all give me apprehensive looks, looked down the hallway to see if Dave was coming or in earshot. One stuttered out, "Let's just keep playing, it'll take your mind off it." It didn't. The other players mostly ignored me during that session. It was super awkward. I was now tainted, and they didn't want to also get called out for being associated with me. The session ended, and everyone quietly got up from their seats and left without a word. I swear, I could taste ash in my mouth. As I walked by the front desk, I tried my hardest not to make eye contact as I left. I nearly jumped out of my skeleton when Karen spoke to me as I was leaving in the warmest, sweetest voice as if nothing had happened. "Bye, OP. I hope you had a great session. See you next time." I smiled awkwardly and said bye back. When I got to my car, I started shaking, and it wasn't until halfway home that I started to feel normal again. It took me days to realize the level of gaslighting and abuse that I had been going through for months. I struggled internally whether I should go back or not. I was just so desperate to have this D&D outlet, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized that it just wasn't worth it. I messaged the DM and told him that it was simply too hard for me emotionally to return to that store to play ever again. I asked if they would be interested in moving to another location, but none of them were interested. They were happy there. I was so flabbergasted by their decision and their attachment to the abuse. Nobody in that group ever tried to reach out to me again. My dude, I was joking about the abuse thing. Holy shit, what is this place? I want to go there and I want to watch this happen. I need to witness the madness that is unfolding in Dave's den of debauchery. If you told me this story in person, I'd assume you were reciting some weird fetish fanfic to me. So listen, I'm a big guy. I don't talk about it much, but I am a large man. Several of my closest friends have told me that I'm a bit imposing when you first meet me. But fun fact, I don't like conflict. I especially don't like shouting, or more specifically, being shouted at. I want to mock OP for putting up with what just happened to him, but I have that sinking feeling that I might have handled the situation the same way he would. It's something I'm working on, and I've made a lot of improvements, but man, I know that feeling, OP. That tightness in your gut, that chill in your blood after someone does that shit to you, it sucks. It's an awful feeling, and it's one that you'll think about from time to time for years. So I'm sorry that happened to you, but hopefully this story ends on a good note. Maybe OP finds a better place to hang out, and Dave develops a cyst on his taint. We can only hope. Part 4. Dice, Deliverance, and New Dawn. A week later, I told Barry what happened, and he was livid. He told me later that he went to that store a day later, told them off, dropped his Dave's Place hoodies on their counter saying, "I don't want to support your business anymore," and left. It didn't do much in the end, but it made me feel better that I had a friend in my corner. After a long while, about half a year, I decided to try out another game store more local to me and see what they had to offer. While I was at the closer store picking up a board game, I met a guy, we'll call him Joe. Joe was in charge of running the D&D sessions at this store and was trying to create a really positive and fun community of players. He was promoting the heck out of it and took the time to talk to me extensively about it. He was so nice, so positive, and after a few conversations, he convinced me to try their D&D nights out. I decided to try out a night and keep it casual as I slowly waded back into the scene. The people were nice, positive, and Joe kept everything super fun and casual. After the session, when I felt comfortable talking about it, I told him my experience with Dave's Place. At the mention of the store, Joe's eyes went wide and about 2 tables of people all suddenly stopped what they were doing and stared at me. I thought I had done something wrong until, in an almost unanimous frenzy, they all spewed out a torrent of disdain and hatred for Dave's Place and its owners. It totally derailed the night as the 2 games completely stopped as each person around me belted out their own horror stories. This went on for quite a while as the players went on a long tirade of disdain and anger. Each person had some story to vent to the masses. Hearing that others went through something similar made me feel good, as if we had a common experience to bond over. Here are some of the real in-person testimonies I have collected about Dave's Place. They pay to have all of the negative reviews removed from Google and Yelp. They will make new accounts and add a ton of fake reviews to inflate their score. Fuck that place. I've seen that guy chase people out of the store for not buying enough. They're crazy. I used to go there, but they had this weird way they treated people. You had to buy enough from their shop to meet their respect criteria, but it was like a black hole. Nothing was ever enough. I think they yelled at Jerry for bringing in a bottle of water. They made him stand outside in the cold and drink it before letting him come in. That was pretty fucked up. I got banned for posting a negative Yelp review. They stalk Google, Yelp, and even BGG. If you say anything bad about them, they try to discredit you. I signed my 10-year-old son up for a campaign. He brought his D&D book along. Because he didn't buy his D&D book there, they filled his spot in for the campaign for the following sessions. He's 10. He cried for hours. Total jerks. I was asked to pay double for all events because I wasn't buying enough. That was a big nope. They charge over MSRP for all of their games. Cans of Coke were $3 each. They're super bullshit. I got banned because I bought $125 worth of merchandise, then sat down at a table with a friend. They thought I was stealing from them because I didn't pay the $10 table cost even after my big purchase. I argued and said I would never come back. They said they already got my money and no refunds. It felt so good to know that other people had been in my place and had gone through similar experiences. The new community was so much better, so much more enjoyable, and filled with some really wonderful people who are still my friends to this day. The new community was so much better, so much more enjoyable, and filled with some really wonderful people who are still my friends to this day. Years went by, and every now and again, Dave's Place would get brought up randomly in conversation, or a new survivor would show up to game night. People would always share their terrible experiences or rumors that they heard. During that time, I grew as a person, made friends, got married, and had mostly buried the whole experience somewhere deep inside of me until I decided to write this story. During this writing process, I reached out and called one of my since-made friends and asked them about their experience with the store, and here's what they said. I built them an entire miniatures community, and they shattered it. We had a dozen of concurrent weekly players, give or take a few, for about 6 months. They kept a list of every miniature you bought from them and didn't allow you to play with anything that you hadn't bought from them. Got it somewhere else and it wasn't on their list? Too bad. Completely drove everyone away. Everyone! They could have made tons of money off that, but they were too stupid and too greedy. God, they were awful. Dave's place is still around today, even after over a decade of terrible stories and experiences shared frequently throughout the community and building such an infamous reputation. However, if you look at the Dave's Place ratings online, they're still pretty decent and sitting around 4 stars. There's lots of people claiming how nice Dave and Karen are, how beautiful the store is, how they are just the best. To a degree, I am happy that there are people who have positive experiences, but I honestly worry about how honest those reviews are and if they're just signs of the Stockholm Syndrome that the owners cultivate. To this day, I am 100% sure they're still actively trying to get the negative reviews removed. But if you look hard enough, mixed throughout all the positive ones are some real heartbreaking stories from some really hurt people that tell how the place really is. Sorry for the long post. I know it's not 100% D&D related, but it sure was a horrific story I lived through. Just know that you don't have to take/suffer through anyone's abuse. You don't owe anyone anything, and trust goes both ways. Thank you for reading. TLDR, game store owners bully and harass their patrons, nickel and dime them, and yell at them for not buying enough. They track what you buy, and when I brought something in that wasn't purchased there, some dice, they backed me into a literal corner and screamed at me for a half hour. So folks, I did a little research. After scrubbing through the comments in this thread, apparently other readers have also been to this shop. While that doesn't 100% guarantee that it's real, it does mean that there's a very real chance it is, which is horrific. I hate that. I hate everything about that. But I'd like to hear from all of you. If you could do me a favor, write down in the comments below any of your awful experiences you might have had with a game shop or two. I need to absorb the cringe deep into my soul. But in any case, thank you all so much for watching. Remember to leave a like and to share this video if you want to help this channel grow. I'll see you all again for another round in the Chaotic Tavern.